Okay, I've got a special surprise for you. So recently you've seen us debut a couple Jeep builds that we did. One is called Rockhound and one is called Yukon Jack. Now both these builds are very interesting to us because we've kind of gotten away from our normal builds and we've taken on something a little bit more evasive when it comes to an actual build. These builds are similar to the gridlock build that we launched a couple years ago. So what we did is we took kind of the premonition of what genright has done about building these Jeeps that are similar to Ultra 4 cars, but are still street legal. And we kind of dived into that and threw a little bit of our flair to it. So what we've built is two awesome, top to bottom, fully decked out JKUs. So let's get into this and I'm gonna show you guys what exactly we did. So starting out with both of these builds, they are both an LS3 platform. Now, one is actually an E-Rod motor, which is Yukon Jack. The other one is a pullout of a 2014 SS Camaro. Now the cool thing about the one that we pulled out of the Camaro for Rockhound, we didn't know at the time, but it was actually a cammed LS3. So we built both these rigs, we made them up to a 480 LE transmission. Now, the reason we go with that transmission for maximum off-road is because that transmission is die-hard, is bulletproof. We have those made up to Atlases. Again, a little bit different in the way they're built. Yukon Jack decided to go with a 4-speed Atlas, where Mitch in Rockhound wanted this traditional 2-speed Atlas. A lot of people try to do crazy headers and that kind of stuff, but what we chose was the stock manifolds. And then we ran those through a MagnaFlow exhaust. Now the MagnaFlow exhaust we're running is a 2.5-inch exhaust out to a 3-inch MagPack muffler, which makes these things just sound healthy. It's awesome. Again, we're running dual Odyssey batteries in these, and they're just awesome batteries that we've always found are reliable. And one of the questions we got asked is, if you put the batteries there, how do you jump the car if it ever does die? We ran a couple 700-volt posts off of 1/0 gauge wire up to, and that's where we actually disseminate all of the power and everything. And on the firewall, you actually have 2 jumper posts as well. To keep these things cool, we decided to go with Mishimoto. Now Mishimoto has 2 different types of JK radiators. They have a JK radiator, and then they have a V8 swap JK radiator. So we're running that radiator, and in front of that, you're gonna find a 25-row dual pass transmission cooler that is, again, something that we use. You can use it as oil, transmission, whatever, it's the fluid cooler. But we use that, and you're seeing really good temperatures, around 190 degrees, 200 at most. Now the axles, again, are something that we normally don't work with, but we decided to pull those in because of the quality of the builds and what we were doing. We weren't building what we would normally call a traditional like junkyard Jeep style build. We're building race Jeeps. So we went with Curries. Now the axles that we set up were the 60 front with the 70 rear. They're filled with all the Yukon gear and axle goodies, and with the hardcore hubs obviously as well. Wrapped on those are the R1 Concepts brakes. Now again, you're gonna see an orange and a blue pattern on those calipers, but they're identical when it comes to the actual components of the brakes. They're both a 6-piston, 4-piston setup. That is kind of what you need when you start building vehicles of this level. A lot of people will throw a lot of power at it, but they won't throw a lot of braking at it. And the problem is you start getting, as fast as you're getting with these vehicles, you know, 500-600 horsepower vehicles, you need a lot of braking power to stop them in time. The build that you're gonna find with Mitch, which is Rockhound, the blue one, that's gonna be running a 40-inch Boss. The orange one, that is the Yukon build, that's gonna be running a 40-inch Pro XS. Both phenomenal tires. One's just a little bit more aggressive than the other one. Marco's is running a Hex wheel from KMC, and Mitch's is running a Machete. Again, very, very similar wheels in the way of backspace, fitment, offset, diameters, all that kind of stuff. Kind of moving up from there, what attaches all of those components to the frame and to everything itself is a genright Elite Kit. Now the genright Elite Kit is kind of synonymous for being the elite system out there when it comes to Jeeps. There's a lot of top tier suspension companies out there when you're getting into this area, but with the price tag that genright has, it's kind of the top tier of all of those. The reason is because of the amount of work of engineering that genright has put into this system, so it's definitely bulletproof suspension. Now when you set that whole thing up, you've got to have some serious shocks. They're actually going to sustain all this power and this speed and this flex, so to say, whether you're going high speed or low speed. Again, they kind of both opted for different setups. Yukon Jack's running a Fox with a 3.0 IBP 1214 setup, while Mitch is running a King IBP 3.0 1214 setup. When you're doing the 4-link in the rear, something else you have to use is a genright gas tank. So using their Elite, I believe it's just over 30 gallons we're running in each one of those vehicles, which is more than you're gonna find stock in a normal JKU. Now these new gas tanks that we put in from genright, traditionally you're not gonna be able to use your regular fuel pump that you're gonna normally have in your Jeep or your car. So working with Aeromotive, we've always found that their Phantom, it drops right in. They have all the systems you need to pop those fuel pumps right in. They're an internal baffled fuel pump that it's just awesome. Moving to the side of these vehicles, you have genright rockers as well. A little bit of accents on there. All these vehicles have the rash guards on them. And you want those on all the parts as well, because the thing is you beat on that rash guard, you can just replace that rash guard later and it doesn't mess up the overall component the rash guard is protecting. And around the outside of this car, you're gonna find what genright makes for armor. Now, we're running a stubby Elite front bumper on these. We always use worn winches. We've just found they're the best and the most reliable. Match those up to the factory 55s that we always use. Again, we like that closed link winching system. We don't like open hooks, those kind of things. That's how accidents happen. Traditional rear bumper we ran on these. Both of them have the rear tire. At this point, Mitch has actually pulled his rear tire off. He likes running it without it, but he has it there in case he wants to put it back on. And he always has his spare with him as well. Marco, who is out by himself and a little more adventurous, he likes having all that stuff. Once we got that completely sealed, it came to the cages. Again, they both wanted a little bit different of a cage, but they both ended up at the same place. We cosmetically changed a little bit, and we were able to fit in full steering wheel, tilt, everything that you normally find, but then we also put in Dakota digital dashes. So both those vehicles are running their Chevy ECUs, and they communicate with the Dakota digital dash, and that's it. There's no secondary piggyback anything systems. On top of that cage, you're gonna find an aluminum roof that genright makes. We also opted for the rain gutter. You definitely want that so that you can fully water seal the top of that thing. Mitch's has a little bit more lighting than Marco's, but the way Mitch likes to drive, it fits what he wants to do a little bit more. Marco's more about not the show of the vehicle, but more of the go of the vehicle. When it comes to the headlights in this, we just threw a traditional LED headlight in the front. Knowing that both of these rigs are gonna be dealing with a lot of snow and a lot of water, we sealed the bodies back. So we used Motobuilt towers and we filled in the whole rear tub area. And then working with bullet liner, we sprayed the entire cab of these things. Once we got all of that stuff done, we dropped in these PRP seats. So the rear seats actually sit on top of the batteries and on top of one of the S-pods and on top of some of the fuses. And the reason we did that is because we wanted all of the internal wiring to be dialed with that. So that's kind of a little trick that we have. You use two UTV seats in the back and then your two Enduro Elites up front. Both again went with like their cool pattern design. That's the great thing about PRP is you're able to customize what you really want. You start to get into the fundamentals of how this vehicle is going to work, because at this point you've removed all components of the CAN bus system you normally find in a Jeep, all the wiring, door wiring, window wiring, everything is gone. There's nothing else left in there. So we had to rewire everything to make it all work. The reason that we use the dual Bantams in both these vehicles is because it removes a lot of the wiring problems that you normally have inside a Jeep or vehicle, or anything you're building in general, just because everything is fused, relayed, everything right there. And it makes life simple. You're building this car and you're going out and you're rolling with your friends, you want to be able to talk to them, you want to be able to have fun. With Marco's in the Yukon Jeep, he has the traditional digital setup that you're normally going to find with rugged radios, with just a regular speaker and a mic. Now Mitch, he definitely wanted the full headset system. So what we have from Rugged with him is the full intercom system that you're gonna find in typically like a race vehicle. He has 4 full headsets inside that thing. Everyone can talk, they can push buttons, talk out of the car if they want to, but everything in there is crystal clear for him. And that's kind of what you're looking for, especially when you have an LS3 making a ton of noise around you. So all of that stuff is awesome. Now, nobody wants an awesome build without some great tunes. So working with Kicker Audio, we were able to put in a full marine grade head unit. So again, if it gets wet, anything, it's not gonna get damaged. a 5-speaker sound system inside that thing that has 4 speakers, 2 front, 2 rear, and a sub in the back. All of that awesomeness you got going on inside there. You'll see a lot of the great accessories that we'll work with, like Scosh. We have mirrors and handles and mounts and all those kinds of things that you need to like live your lifestyle, so to say, out there, which is awesome. You know, you need that. On the rear, we're running Max built taillights. Out of all the different taillights that we've seen out there, we typically like their taillight the most. They're very clean, they're reliable. You don't have a bunch of issues with them. There's a very wiring system to put together, and it's there and it works and it's nice. You take all of these awesome builds and you match those up with the power tank systems that you're going to find in both of these, and it's going to make your life of ease of filling up these 40-inch tires. Both these guys wheel a lot, and what they want is they want to be able to get to a trail, air down, go wheel and have fun, get back, air up as fast as they can, and go about their lives. They don't want to sit there for hours with a compressor, which we've normally found happens with these 40s and 42s and 43s. So you'll probably want to hear from Mitch a little bit about his Jeep. We caught him out on the trail, so hear what he has to say.
I've been in wheeling long enough in building my own Jeep, had a pretty good idea of what worked well, and going to the crawl events as well, you could see what worked. I actually got the Jeep in Moab at Easter Jeep Safari this year, which was also the first crawl event for 2021. The color that I picked for, I guess, the accent color, Booty Blue is the name of it. Beautiful blue color with some metallic flake in it. Appearance-wise, it was just a gorgeous Jeep. And then obviously, first thing I noticed was all the small details. So much attention to detail. The interior, completely new. There's nothing Jeep left about it. And the attention to detail that went into that interior is something that always catches everybody's eye. So much more power. Reverse manual valve body, maximum transmission. A lot to get used to. There is a lot going on with this compared to what I came from. So it was a little intimidating at first. Getting out on the trails, getting a feel for it, getting a feel for the throttle compared to coming from the 3.6, having to shift all the time, which I absolutely love now, but it took some getting used to. One of the last trails we did in Moab was Moab Rim. Trail that everybody's heard of, everybody talks about, off camber all the time. Some pretty good climbs when there's not a whole lot beside you but nothing and you fall into the river. First thing I noticed about was how stable that Jeep felt. The genright Elite suspension that I ended up going with on it, super stable, off camber on Moab Rim, no problem. It's the way it's built. If I can drive it, the Jeep is more than capable of doing it. So I did a couple climbs that I'm still ecstatic about. I mean, it was a blast. It was so much fun.
So these guys both have their toys. It's gonna be a lot of fun watching them, enjoy them. And here, we like building fun things. We like doing fun things. So can't wait to see what we have next coming up. It's gonna be pretty awesome. Appreciate you guys checking this out. If you have any more questions, check out RockstarPerformanceGarage.com or hit us up on any of the social media channels, YouTube, any of that kind of stuff, you'll find us. But it's been an awesome ride so far. Can't wait to see what we do next time.